tung kuljetës. Shkarko aplikacionin e bankës ProCredit dhe paguaj profi nëpërmjet telefonit mobil Android. ProCredit Bank, shumë profi.
Welcome back, everyone. As we know, the pandemic has affected pretty much every industry of the economy, and businesses have tried to adapt to various changes in quite different ways. Exploring the topic of innovation as a mean of survival, I'm pleased to pass the virtual floor to Dr.Benedikt Hockmayr, the CEO of Joseph's Open Innovation Lab. Just before I do so, I just want to let you know that you can send us your questions on Facebook or YouTube and in our platform at KosICT.com, and we'll try to answer them at the end if there aren't any questions. Dr. Hockmayr, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I am pleased to tell something about how innovation can happen with the unbounded enterprise as counterpart to the topic innovation as a means of survival. Just to introduce myself, my name is Benedikt Hockmayr. I am from Germany, and I've studied there industrial engineering and mechanical engineering at the southern part of Germany at Nuremberg. Then I have done my PhD thesis over 3.5 years and did my doctorate on the topic engineering service systems in the digital age. It would take quite a bit too much time to dive deep into that topic. Just in short, it is all about doing value creation in a way that is not based on products, but on value creation from a service-centered point of view, under recognition of the potential that comes out of digitalization and digital technology. Since 2019, I am CEO of Joseph's and would like to dive into that topic a bit more, because we are dealing quite much with the thing that's behind innovation. So what do we have here? We have an open innovation laboratory in the city center of Nuremberg. And what we are doing there is the following. So we have a place that every pedestrian could enter, and every pedestrian that is all around the city center can enter our expo, so to say. So everybody can experience innovation in the most tangible way possible. What we do is that we moderate in between the ideas, the concepts, and the business models that different companies have. For example, a startup could have the idea of building shoes out of stone, for example. And one can find out how it feels to interact with the shoes out of stone, and can interact with the idea of the business model that's behind this idea. And in the following, we get out the real facts that you need in order to further develop your innovation project and to get to a point that you build up a whole consistent business model out of it. What we have here is especially also the opportunity to do innovation workshops. We have here different rooms that you can meet to do your own workshops for further developing your ideas and getting to a point where real innovation happens. So what we do is that we we do some tests. For example, somebody can experience a new driving experience that is showed here. And what is the interesting thing about it, that you always interact with these novel ideas in a way that's not on a level that is solely technology driven, but we have here our so-called innovation guides, and these innovation guides moderate in between the implicit and explicit needs that a user has and our customers. So we bridge in between potential users and customers and companies that we work with, and we aggregate these facts out of the interaction with the prototypes that we have here. So you always have these circumstances, you always have a scenario that lets people dive into a certain business and innovation context. And by that, we find out things that nobody can find out. So we are in this so-called fuzzy front end of innovation, in which we find out so-called hidden gems. So we find out things that you wouldn't have anticipated in the forefront, and it brings further your business idea. And in the end, SMEs, startups, but also big companies come to the point that they have a verification of their ideas, that they have a verification of their mission, and then can get some further outlook on what to do in the future. So we have done over 100 customer projects with big and small companies, with SMEs, with agencies from the state. And we have done it over 5 years. In the last couple of years, we have done over 250 events per year. We have over 400 square meters of innovation space. And what's the most important thing, we have over 50,000 visitors in our Open Innovation Lab that have co-created ideas together with the companies that we host here, that we show here. And the most important thing is that people see what's happening here, and that's the reach over individuals we have per month. That's 900,000. So when a company is together with us in our Open Innovation Laboratory, when we are working with them, then they can be sure that they are seen out there. Newspaper are writing about the initiative. Facebook posts are happening, Twitter posts are happening. So everybody who is engaging in the sense of open innovation gets some new knowledge and some new reach out of it. But we come to the point of innovation. What moves us? And that's not only Joseph's, that's the thing that moves our whole economy. So what we have is that we have, on the one hand, innovation, and on the other hand, we have the digital age. We have buzzwords, something like IoT, smart services, predictive maintenance, and you always ask yourself, okay, what is this? Why does it happen, and how does it happen? And I have brought some numbers, statements, and facts that elaborate on this topic. So we are always having this insight of, that something in the world happens that's called VUCA. So this acronym stands for a thing that happened after the Cold War. So everything was newly configured phenomena that supposed to be sure we're seen as other developments, and you had a whole new worldview. And something is happening, not that severely, but interestingly, in a way that we have here in the context of digitalization and digital transformation. So you get to the point that things happen more in a sense of volatility. In the next 10 years, for example, 50% of the current Fortune 500 companies will be replaced. That's because of you are not able to do value creation in the way you have done it beforehand. New players are entering the market and are disrupting whole new economies. You also have the point of uncertainty. So when you think about a car manufacturer, for example, in the past, they have spent heaps of money into their research and development. And they always had something like a successful product in the end. Right now, you have different mechanics. You can't spend heaps of money and can expect that you have heaps of innovation scenarios happening. So you have small players that maybe have a really, really good idea that are disrupting a whole market. Then it's the point that you also have complexity. I come back to the car, to the automotive manufacturer. So you could be sure that you need good engineers, good mechanical engineers who can build a car. Right now, a car is often not seen anymore as a product. It is seen as a service. You have there the service of mobility that substitutes the car as a means of mobility. There are players like Uber, and Uber uses physical resources like the car, human resources like the drivers, and uses heaps of software in order to make it happen. And this complexity is not really easy to handle when you think about the business model behind. And then you have ambiguity. I introduced the buzzwords beforehand, and you are not really sure what you're talking about when you have a look at the phenomena happening in our day's world. So also innovation has undergone a change. For example, innovation in the 16th century, the term was equated with heresy and was punished with life sentences. That may be a thing that should not happen nowadays right now, but that's the thing about when we talk about complex phenomena, that every player has a different take upon what you're talking about right now. So to sum it up, we have had an old world that was based on closed R&D, internal resources in a company that were working in stage gate processes on the topic of innovation. For example, a new car should be built. There was the concept in the first place, then the specs specification the second place, at some time a prototype, and then it was rolled out, and then a marketing campaign happened. So finished products were thrown into the market based on ideas. So what we have right now is the digital transformation and new ways for innovation and value creation. And there's the topic that we have different aspects that we should have a look upon. On the first place, there's the immateriality of value creation. So value isn't created by having a product. And I think the smartphone is the best example to illustrate that. A smartphone is actually just a black box. And it is only gaining value for its user when you have apps on it. And these apps are not physical matter. These apps are value creation that's happening based on software, but also based upon the interaction that takes place. So you have carriers of value creation, but you not necessarily have a product that creates value. That's a huge difference. And then we also come to the point of systems. And so you are not really sure where a system ends. Again, when you have a product like the car, then you know, okay, there's this thing and this thing, it has 4 wheels and it has a chassis. But when you take the system of Uber, you don't really know where it starts and where it ends. You have flexible boundaries. You have flexible systems, the system car, the system software, the system drivers that interact with each other. And in the systems view, you have players that involve themselves as innovators and co-creators in different meanings. It comes to the point of platform economies, platform engagement, that you have to have a look upon when you build up your business model, where you could engage in innovation and with which players this happens. And in the end, you need new knowledge, new design know-how for the development of these complex value propositions. You can't really have one sheet of paper and write down your business model in the sense that you get to a whole complete view out of it. So there are some dynamics to sum it up. You have the dynamics of rapid technology development and changing competitive conditions. And then you have a large number of stakeholders, of actors that are involved in development and realization. So you need a certain nucleus. You need something that you can stick to in order to stay competitive and innovative in disruptive ages that we have right now. So we have the new world, and the new world is based upon what is out there. So we have a whole globalized world with much ideas out there and much needs that you really have to acknowledge. So the new world is based upon the topic of open innovation and internal and external resources that you can involve into your innovation process. And the overall topic is that you take innovation as a series of quick experiments, in the sense of that you build something, you measure something, and you learn from it and repeat it. So you don't have a stage gate process, you have a process. Sorry, there's some noise in the background.
Is it better now?
Not really. Let's have
We'll check
yeah,
it just a sec.
Yeah, I can do it like that. Thank you. So there's the focus not on ideas, so it's the focus on customers and users in this new world. And then we come to the point, okay, that's all fine. And then you still have struggles. And there are certain struggles that don't necessarily have something to do with the overall economy or the overall topic of digital transformation, but come out of really different circumstances. At the one hand, there's the part of the culture. And culture is the question, yeah, are we creative, or are we lazy, or our failure blocks new initiatives, or we have no vision? These are man-made things. Then you have the topic of unsubscription. Yeah, you don't really know when do we have to start, or that you fear failure, or that you don't necessarily have top-level support in the sense of how do we convince stakeholders of the benefits. And yeah, there are some further topics, for example, teams-based. I wouldn't go through all of these points, but that we focus here on the thing that is not only the economy that makes us struggle with innovation, but it is often the point of how we can have a look on the topic of innovate within our own company. And that's the point that is a point that I could elaborate a bit more, but I would like to place some images into your head. That innovation quite often feels like climbing a new mountain. That, for example, is the Matterhorn in Switzerland. And when you stand behind this huge mountain, you maybe have the sense of that you don't really know where is the goal. So the summit here is cloudy. You don't really have the overview on what to achieve right now. Then you have the thing that you not necessarily know which is the right way, that you have here difficult and easy paths. But still, it's the point that you have to get on the summit on your own drive, by your own force. So somebody can carry you some meters, but not on the summit. That's a point that you could achieve on your own. And then there's the security. You won't go on a mountain without having a certain sense of security. You won't go up there without having a rope. So you should be sure that small mistakes can be made, and that a small failure is not the thing that would kill you when you just rush down a few meters. In the sense, it's the topic, how do I approach innovation? And the first rule is that you shouldn't approach innovation when you are in a company and when you are an innovative-driven brain in there, that you should never go into innovation alone. So you shouldn't be on your computer and do something and do something right and really expect that somebody will be overwhelmed by what comes out of that. It's more the team. It's the team that's the most important driver of innovation. That's believed by 94% of senior executives. That's the first point. Then the second point is that you need some point of guidance. You need someone who shows you the way. You can beat it on your own, but you somehow need a certain direction. You need a framework, you need things that you can work in. And but the most important thing here is that when you look at this rope, that the rope is not straight. The rope is sliding beneath the floor. And by that, you have a certain sense of that you can have a step right and a step left, but still you follow these guidance. And that's a really, really important thing that really most managers talk the talk, but don't walk the walk. 85% say innovation is very important, but 78% just focus on the small stuff, incremental changes, introducing a new SAP software or a new CRM software. But innovation is a thing that goes beyond it. You need to think about it in a quite distinct way and then start doing something. But before you climb a mountain, you should somehow fail and experience yourself. Here we have a small boulder image. And here is the thing that you need a type of organic growth, that you have innovation grown and trained from step to step to step. Nobody can be thrown into an innovation project and you can't then expect that it happens on your own. You need to have small steps and introduce the people you would like to have on board on this innovation journey by training them in a way and by letting them go sometime. So here, the whole topic is fail early, fail often, and let the people experience what to do. And then that's the point of how we make innovation successful. There are some different meanings upon it. Some say innovation isn't a thing that you can structure. Some say you should have clearly defined stage gate processes. Our take on this topic is that you have to have a defined framework in which you can act, a structured procedure, in which you are sure that you won't fail, in which you are somehow safe, that you can achieve your goals, that you can achieve something that's valued. When you don't have a structure, then you don't really have a beneficial and value creation structure, and don't have the you are not really acknowledged by the people that are out there in the company. So by having the structure, innovation creates value by itself. However, 57% of companies do not follow a formal innovation process. That's quite interesting. So just by giving them a structure and within the innovation processes, you are gathering value. And then that's a thing that I like quite the most about is that is something that Jeff Bezos said from Amazon, that you have to do experiments. And that's a really important thing, that he says our success at Amazon is a function of how many experiments we do per year, per month, per week, per day. So only by doing small experiments and reflecting about what you have achieved, you can do fact-based decisions. And by doing these small steps and reflecting on these small steps, you get knowledge on the things you would like to achieve. For example, here, before climbing a mountain, you should try to ride a bike upon a huge pass with 4,850 meters. And then you get to the point that you maybe need some more oxygen. But before you have not done that, you wouldn't have known that. You could have read about it, but you would have never experienced it on your own. And then, let me have a second, it's the thing that you have to take the right path. Big companies have the resources that you do something really disruptive. When we have Siemens, a global player, they can do stuff that a small company never ever could achieve. But by doing the right thing at the right time, you as a small company can take the right path and get to a point that you really have valuable customers that get you to a point that you have really business success in the end. And so here's the topic that failing fast without losing a customer is really more valuable than just finishing a project and getting through it only that you have done it in the end. A customer would say, okay, that's a cool thing that you have introduced there, and they are pleased when you work upon your failure. And the best thing, for example, and the best example for this is what Elon Musk is doing. They 2 days ago, I think, they have sent a rocket into the air and into the aerospace, and it bursted when it landed. But he said, yeah, we learned from it, and they are taking the right path on their own, and their customers are seeing, okay, failure is happening, but they won't happen that often in the future when you learn from it. So in the end, it's the thing about gathering acceptance from your customers, and that's the thing here on the right hand side up there, that you gather acceptance by showing the goal and the way towards it. You're anticipating by reflecting on the things, by doing a structured innovation process that you would like to go up on the innovation summit. And you can promote acceptance if you make clear what is your target, what you would like to achieve, with which burdens you have to deal with. And here's the topic that the customer of tomorrow should be considered as the new CEO. So in practice, I would just go quickly through it. What we have introduced at Josefs is a so-called Josefs innovation system with 5 steps. I will dive through it in 3 minutes. So the first phase is understanding a problem, defining chances. And you do it never alone. You always have different worldviews on a problem. By that, you can understand it and define chances for yourself. Then you have to understand the user as early as possible. In Josefs, we are doing this by really having a strict view upon what the user and the customer is and what benefits and what needs they have. You have to clarify innovation issues and set focus. And by setting this focus, you can do the small experiments. You can try out things that might be available in the end. When you try everything, you won't be really on point and you won't achieve something in the end. The second phase is sketching solutions and make it possible. By that, you can inspire yourself by the things that are out there. You don't really have to introduce fundamental new things. You can learn from existing things. And by making ideas visible, you can talk about them and discuss about them and deal with people that are not really that insightful in normal cases. When you are doing a workshop, and that's a simple thing, that's a thing that we are doing on an everyday basis, bring that to life and get the people into stress. And by stressing them, by taking time, you come to conclusions that are really in the golden way. Talking is silver, but sketching is gold. And you have to decide upon what to do in the end. You have to focus on the things that are mattering to you. And the phase 3, you should do prototypes. We can do physical prototypes. You can do software prototypes. You can prototype everything. But the main idea of prototyping something is that you can talk about it in the end and talk about the user's opinion, the B2B customer's opinion, the opinion of certain partners. And by that, you come to a point that you learn something. And that's the thing that you have to maybe iterate, implement, or let an idea, let an innovation die before it could be rolled out. What are the implications? I have just to shift here my window a bit. So here we are. Take a first step quickly instead of investing in large-scale projects. That's the thing that's the most important point here. You have to do experiments in the team instead of lengthy briefing for external parties. You can achieve really many things on your own. and you have to involve your customer in the earliest point as possible in order to have acceptance for the finished product in the end. So, and to close my presentation, again, these statements that I really like from Jeff Bezos: our success at Amazon is a function of how many experiments we carry out per year, per month, per week, per day. And that's the thing that can gather acceptance, that brings innovation to life, and that makes innovation happen on a scale that brings you forward in the digital age. And that's my presentation. Thank you for having me. And now I am free to answer your questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hockmayr. That was a really, really lovely presentation with a lot of insights and a lot of details. So thank you for sharing that with us. I especially want to just mention two things: the fail early and fail often part that you mentioned. And in the 10 years, about 50% of Fortune 500 companies will be replaced. I truly believe that there's a correlation between these two aspects into who's going to overtake one another. Thank you so much. At the end, I'm just going to say vielen Dank to you for your time and for your availability to join us at KosICT. We truly enjoyed your presentation and your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good time and
you
a good
too
conference.
As well. You too
See
as well.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. And for our audience, we'll be back very shortly with our first panel discussion of the day. Stay tuned and we'll see you shortly. Thank you.